Hello, I'm Malcolm Cox, and this is your Tuesday teaching tip. These are tips to help us to prepare a Bible lesson, a sermon, or some other teaching opportunity. Some of these tips are my own from experimentation. Some are ones I've read in books, and some have come from other people who've shared them with me. These aren't the way to prepare a lesson, they are a way, but I do hope you'll try them and let me know what works for you. This is episode number 11, and it is called Influential Illustrations. What's that about? Watch on. Influential illustrations. Illustrations are so important to a lesson. Jesus was the master illustrator, wasn't he? Think of all the parables he taught, all the illustrations. Even in the passage we've been using to talk about public speaking and preparing lessons, you'll remember that Jesus said to one of the men who wanted to follow him, "Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Foxes, dens, birds, nests, these are illustrations. They're verbal, but they are illustrations, ways that Jesus is connecting a point he's trying to make with the people that are listening to him in a way that they would understand. They knew about foxes and dens and birds and nests. Illustrations are so important because they have the potential to inspire or irritate. They inspire when they connect with the correct point and they connect with us and we understand them. They can irritate if they're irrelevant or badly thought through. They are confusing. They don't really connect with the point. They're perhaps shoehorned in because the preacher, teacher likes their illustration. Or they can simply not connect with the audience. This is very important, particularly perhaps when we're speaking to a group who are rather unlike us culturally or in some other way. So what do we do to make sure that an illustration inspires rather than irritates? Well, we'll use one example connected with the passage from Matthew 8 that we've been talking about recently, and let's look into this. The illustration I'd like to use as an example for us is from Matthew chapter 8. It's based on the passage we've been already looking at, and it's in that section where the teacher of the law comes to Jesus, verse 19, and says, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus replies, "Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." And if you remember from earlier recordings, the point I felt I would like to make from this, it seems to fit, is one of overconfidence. If we're going to follow Jesus and find him, "Follow me and find me" is my title for this lesson. If we're going to find him, we need to follow him on his terms, and we need to make sure that we're not coming to him with overconfidence. So how do I illustrate overconfidence? That's the question. And here's how I chose to illustrate it the last two times I taught this lesson, and I'm teaching it again soon. So here's what I used. Let me just give you the gist of the illustration. Basically, one morning I came down for breakfast, put some toast in the toaster, went off to make some tea, came back, it smelt a bit funny, I wasn't sure what was going on. I had a look in the toaster, and in the toaster were two small baby mice. They were not what I was hoping to toast for breakfast. They had crawled in there during the night because they presumably noticed or smelt that there were some breadcrumbs there, thought, "Nice, tasty food, let's go in there." They were electrocuted and then burned to a crisp by my making toast. They were overconfident. They didn't realize what they were getting themselves into. That's my point. Now, in telling the story, I elaborate a little bit and I add in some suspense and some humor and that kind of thing. You understand. But I'm just giving you the brief version right now. So they were overconfident mice. Let's not be overconfident. That's the point. Now, that's the story. How do we use it? Well, there are three possible ways. One is to tell the story, as I just did, with a bit more detail, but you can tell the story verbally. The second possibility is to use a picture. And when I taught this at least one of the times, I took a photograph of the toaster, put it on a PowerPoint slide, and put that up on the screen so everybody could see that. And in visibly seeing the toaster, I think it brought it a bit more to life. But the next time I taught it, I thought, let me do that a bit differently. And that time, I actually brought with me the toaster in question. And in bringing the toaster out of a bag, at that point when I was telling the story, I pulled it out of the bag and I held it up for the congregation to see. And I showed them, although of course most of them couldn't really see, but I showed them the inside and where the mice were. And it had an even more powerful effect on that audience because, well, you can imagine. They're imagining the mice being in there more easily. They're imagining the smell of the burning mouse flesh more easily. And they're also wondering, why have I still got this toaster? Why haven't I thrown it away? And we made a few jokes about that. But there's different ways you can tell a story. Using the words, just words, a picture. Thirdly, perhaps actually bringing in something physical like this. You have to choose which will work best for you with your illustration. It depends on the circumstances and the context, but we want to make our illustration influential, whichever method we choose at the time when we're telling the story in a particular lesson. Now, let's take a moment to review the weaknesses and the strengths of the toaster illustration about someone being overconfident. These are at least some points that I have recognized. Perhaps you can see others. The weakness, or one of the weaknesses of this potential illustration, is that people could get a little bit focused on the disgusting nature of burning mice and imagining that and lose the point. The point about the would-be disciple, the point about being overconfident. Perhaps the emotional connection with the idea of burning mice is so strong and so overwhelming that it might cloud the point I'm trying to make. That would be a weakness. A strength, however, would be that it's quite relatable. Pretty much everybody has a toaster. Pretty much everybody makes toast for breakfast or from time to time, if not every day. Pretty much everybody knows what a mouse looks like and has seen one and would be disgusted by the point of it, by the thought of it being in their toaster or in their house. There's a strong connection, at least where I live, in my culture. Toasters and mice are a common idea. So we have a strong connection, and it's powerful in that it's memorable, and bringing the actual toaster in to show everybody makes it all the more memorable. So those things are positive. I think what matters with the weaknesses and the strengths is whether I can bring it back to the main point. And that's very important when we tell an illustration, a story of some kind. It's not just the telling of the story that will do it. It's bringing it back to the point we're making. In this case, overconfidence. And so I need to bring it back. Those mice, it's sad they died in the toaster. I don't really miss them, but okay. I'm sad for the fact that they died, but they went into the toaster with full confidence. It's just a great source of food. They didn't realize how dangerous it was, and perhaps, take it back, this man could only see, gosh, I'd love to be around Jesus. He does all these miracles. He's amazing. Crowds flock to him. Wouldn't it be great to be with him, one of his followers? The crowd would look at me and say, he's one of the followers of Jesus Christ. He's in the inner circle. He's one of the disciples. We don't know all of his motivation, but he hadn't counted the cost. He was overconfident, and Jesus wants him to know it's not going to be comfortable following me. It's not going to be easy following me. And then I think the point would be to draw the point home to the audience. Are some of us overconfident? Are we not thinking through what it really takes to follow Jesus Christ? Have you opened the Bible to look at what it takes, what it really means to be a disciple? Have you looked at this topic of discipleship in the Bible? Not just heard it preached or heard it talked about, but and so on. And you can make the point relevant to your audience. So to sum up the point, we need to use illustrations that inspire and that do not irritate. To do that, let's think carefully about whether we're going to tell the story, picture the story, or use something physical to help the illustration to come alive. And having done that, let's think through the weaknesses of our illustrations. Let's think through the strengths of our illustrations. And finally, make sure we get things back to the point so that things are relevant to our congregation, our audience, and hopefully that they will make good decisions as a result of the point of the passage that you've now illustrated powerfully with your inspiring illustration. So, there you have it. Influential illustrations. I hope you'll try working on your illustrations for your next lesson and let me know how it goes. Come back soon for another Tuesday teaching tip. And if you have ideas you'd like me to share, send them to me at malcolm.cox@iccmissions.org. Or if you have questions or comments, send them to me. Until the next time, I hope you have a tremendous Tuesday and a wonderful week. God bless.